Yo, plug me in. Plug me in to the STEM Plug podcast.
Welcome to episode 6 of the STEM Plug podcast. Here at the STEM Plug podcast, we're here to plug you in with amazing entrepreneurs and innovators within the science, technology, engineering, and math space. And today is no different. We have another amazing guest for you today, and he goes by the name of BATTLEBOT CRAIG. That's right, BATTLEBOT CRAIG. How are you doing today, Craig? I appreciate you plugging in, man.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be here. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so BattleBots, right?
Yeah.
We know you're into BattleBots. That's very, very interesting to me, right? So what really kind of inspires you to get into, really to pursue a career within robotics? I heard from your bio, you told me that you watched Jurassic Park, right? And that made you want to pursue a career in robotics. Where did that come from?
It sounds really weird when you go, I saw dinosaurs and I decided to build robots. So I was 7 or 8 years old when Jurassic Park came out, and I was that kid that was obsessed with dinosaurs. I saw these dinosaurs moving, and I was like, "That's cool. I want one. How do I get one?" And then I got a magazine, and in that magazine they showed like behind-the-scene pictures of what they were doing, and it was all animatronics. So my dad was like, "Oh, they're robots. They're not real things. Obviously, they're rubber over a robot." And I was like, "Well, I can't learn how to do the genetic seeding, so I can create my own dinosaur. But maybe I can build a robot that becomes a dinosaur." So it's been a lifelong goal to make a T-Rex, a robot T-Rex that walks and yeah. But it was what it pointed me in the direction of like I can build things, and so from there on I was making like little animatronic things and using little motors to make things, and then one day I got introduced to robot combat, and then the rest is history. It was like boom, this is what I want to spend my life doing.
So you really would say that your interest of robot fighting, it developed at a young age?
I very much saw robotics and dinosaur stuff when I was like 7, 8 years old. My dad was an engineer. My grandfather was an engineer, and so on and so on. Like my whole family are engineers. So I was going to be an engineer. I think by birthright, I was going to be an engineer. I didn't have a choice. That's what I was going to do. And I was in an engineering club after school, and we got shown a video of the 1995, 1996 Robot Wars, which was the original version of BattleBots, and I saw these robots fighting, and I'm 12 years old. I'm like, this is amazing. I want to do this. This is terrific. The school decided they didn't want to be a part of it, but I was obsessed. I'd spent like that was like on a Thursday, and then by Monday morning I had a robot that was ready to fight. And it's like, let's do this. I'm done. Let's fight. I want to do this, and then. Basically, every year since then, since I was 12 years old, I've had a robot, or I've built a new robot, and I've competed every single year since I was 12 years old, and I'm 39 this year, so I won't tell you how long that's been, but you can work it out. It's been long enough.
Wow, that's an amazing story of just robotic years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember you mentioned to me that you and your dad built a super heavyweight robot from scratch. How did you do that?
So back in the old days, when the weight limits were a lot lower than they are now, the first robot I built was a radio control car with my grandfather's army helmet on it. It was a really basic thing, and that was my robot. And then we saw the TV show, because we didn't do the first season of the TV show, but the first season went out of the TV show, and I was like, this is cool. This is really cool. And they had house robots, and these house robots weighed way more than the competitors. And then the following year, they were like, we're going to do a super heavyweight division that are like, you can build basically robots that are the same weight as the house robots. And we're like, we want to fight the house robots because they're the cool ones. They're the ones that were made of fiberglass, and they had all of these. They looked like things. They didn't just look like boxes or wedges. They looked like things. So I convinced my dad that we should build a super heavyweight robot. And a super heavyweight robot now would be just a heavyweight robot because the weight limits have shifted. Everything's gone up a little bit. So we ended up with a robot that weighed, I think it was about 110 kilos, which is just shy of 250 pounds. And it had 4 wheelchair motors, a pneumatic ram, and all kinds of things. And it could lift, and it could drive. It drove around, and it was awesome. It was probably my favorite robot that we ever built, like just me and my dad.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of cool experiences, right? What's this about with you and your dad? You had a was it an RC car?
Yeah.
And you turned it into a fighting machine?
Yeah, so the very first robot we did, I saw that video in the school club, and I was like, I want to do this. And all I could see was that they were radio control cars, because they all had the radio control stuff that my dad had. And I was like, this is amazing. I want to do this. And my dad used to drive radio control cars in like the early 90s, and then just kind of didn't do it. But we still had all of the stuff, so I was like, I'm going to get his RC car out. So I went into the attic, and I pulled his RC car out. It's a fairly big thing. And the batteries wouldn't charge, so I had to kind of put new batteries in. But it was about the same size as my grandfather's army helmet. And I was like, I need to put a metal cover on it so it could survive getting hit by hammers and stuff. So I drilled 2 holes in the back and 2 holes in the front, so that the posts that the body of the car would sit on, they would just sit on the army helmet, just sat on top of it. And I was like, this is great, but now I need a weapon. I was like, well, you know what I just did? I just drilled holes in it. So if I drill a bigger hole and then put the drill through the helmet, which is on top, because I got a bunch of space on top of it, I've got a wedgie thing around the whole robot. It's an army helmet, so it's going to take a big hit and be fine. So I called it Drill Sergeant, and didn't ask permission from my dad to do any of this. Definitely didn't ask my grandfather. And I built it, and I zip-tied it all together, and I went to my dad's like, look what I've built. And he was like, what have you done?
Wow.
So I explained to him pretty quickly. I was like, it's a robot for fighting. And he's like, oh, okay. And he then saw the TV show. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah. All right, if this gets you into engineering, yeah, I'm good with it. So he was very forgiving, and he saw that there was something there that I could like pursue. So.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess taking that when you had all this building these as a kid, and then you went to school for engineering, were you still doing building like this while you were studying doing your engineering?
Yeah. In fact, like all of my education post building, like turning my dad's radio control car into a robot, my dad was my mentor. He kind of like, this is how we do this. This is how you tap holes. This is how you put threads in things. This is how you pick up a hacksaw. This is what a drill does. This is what you do with, he mentored me through like how to do all the basics. So from there on, I tailored all of my education towards engineering. So I picked up everything math related, anything science related, anything engineering related. I knew I could do the mechanical stuff, and I knew what I was weak in, so I would sign up for like electronics, which was a mistake because I'm now nearly 40 and I have no idea about anything electronic. None of that stuff makes sense to me. Mechanical is all I do. But it kind of just pushed me into like, I'm going to do this, and that will allow me to do this. And it's the same with my career. Everywhere I've gone, it's kind of been to try so that I can make better robots. Sometimes I'm going somewhere because they pay more money, that way I can afford the better things in life. Or I took a job somewhere because they had a machine shop, and they said I could use the machine shop in my downtime. So I was like, okay, cool, yeah, I'm going to use that. And I took that job specifically so I could build better robots.
Wow. That's amazing that, you were able to just, you had a certain interest that you had as a kid, and then you were able to like really turn it into your career. And then, another plug, I guess, we first met at a First Robotics competition.
We did.
We both have teams that we mentor. So how did you really get into First Robotics of, wanting to be a mentor, of showing the next generation the cool things in robotics and the skills that you have?
I used to work for Caterpillar in Clayton, and while I was there, they asked me if I wanted to help out a local robotics team, and they were doing Lego first, the FLL side of things. And that's where I first met a lady called Shannon, who ran that team. It was great. I went along, and I kind of pointed them in the right direction with like bits and things that they were doing. And it was like, they were overcomplicating things. It's like, just keep it really simple. Just do this. They were like, we want to build a robot arm that does this and pushes this. So I was like, just drive past it and whack it with a stick. It'd be fine. It does exactly the same. Anyway, that kind of thing. They aged out of Lego first, and they went off and started doing FRC. And they were at a high school doing it, but they were in a huge team of like 60 people. And that team kind of, they kind of slipped into the background. They were no longer being like encouraged to do things. They were just members of a huge team. So Shannon decided that she wanted to start her own team, which was going to be just for girls, and she was going to try and make it like a local team rather than like a school-based team. So it was going to be a community team. And something important to know about Shannon is that she works for the Air Force. And when she asked me if I wanted to be a mentor, I really didn't like the idea of her calling a drone strike on my house. So I was like, nah, I'm good. I'll do whatever you say. No, she knew my weakness. She must have spoken to my wife. I love hot dogs. She bought me 2 hot dogs, and that was it. I was like, yep, I'm on board. But I remember being that age and not having a mentor for the robot side of things. The engineering side of things, my dad was great at. But in terms of like how people like learn how to do the robotic side of things, there wasn't anybody, and I thought, this is my opportunity to do that, like for other people.
Wow. That's an amazing story. So now you have you're mentoring an all-girls team in Clayton, North Carolina. So that team turned into the team within Clayton?
Yeah, so Shannon got me on board, and she kind of was like, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be an all-girls team. We're going to be based out of somebody's garage for a little while. We're hoping to find somewhere bigger because we're rapidly outgrowing it. We've got too many tools for what we need to do. We've got too many robots. We've got so many robots. But that's what happened. So she was like, it's going to be an all-girls team. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool, no problem. It was, like, on a side note, I've worked in engineering since I was like 18. And I can count on one hand the amount of female engineers I've worked with. There is a huge disparity in between the amount of women in engineering and the amount of men in engineering. So there's no difference in how female engineers and male engineers work. There's no difference, but there's a huge disparity. So I thought to myself, well, I can either sit at home and go, yeah, that's a problem, and do nothing about it, or I can volunteer with these girls and hopefully push them in the direction of be an engineer. And one of the good things is that my girls started like, oh, I want to be a ballerina. I want to do this. And now most of them are like, yeah, I want to be an engineer. I want to do aerospace engineering. I want to do mechanical engineering. I want to do computer programming. It's like, yes, you do.
Yeah. Wow, that has to be an amazing feeling that you're able to, share your experience, and now you're able to give to the next generation and just show them different careers that they, really might not even know about, right?
But so, you must have the same feeling because, I'm not the only one in this room that does it. So you know how it feels.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Me, as far as coaching, we're in our second year, the Cyber Bears. It's been an amazing journey just to, really show kids all the cool things they can do within robotics, right? Me, I'm a robotic engineer myself, particularly within lab automation. And it's such a growing field, right? And the interesting thing about robotics is it's such a wide, different field that you can do a lot of different things within robotics, right?
Yeah, it's not just electrical or software. It's mechanical, it's hydraulic, it's pneumatic. It's a bit of everything.
Exactly. And then it's also a cool thing for me. I really say it's a cool thing when you can mentor someone and you're actually learning yourself as well, right?
Yeah.
Like I know with my team, the Cyber Bears, I'm the mentor, but I learn from them as well, different things since I've been a mentor. So that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, one of the big things that I've learned with working with the girls is a lot of TikTok dances.
Okay, I see you.
We're not going to be doing any more of those. Thank you.
That's cool. So what kind of projects and like activities do you kind of undertake as a mentor with the robotics team? What do you what side of the...
So I'm mostly on the mechanical side of things because being a mechanical engineer. But what we found with the girls is that when the team first started, they were all complete rookies. They didn't know like They didn't know which end of a screwdriver to pick up. And they didn't know the difference between a big screwdriver and a small screwdriver and what you would use them for. We ended up with these tiny little screwdrivers and these big-ass screws, and you're destroying screws all the way through. It's like, oh, God, use the right tool. Anyway, so a lot of it originally was just showing them what the right tool was and how to use it, and a lot of safety side of things. But they progressed real quickly. And you have some girls that are really good at like the assembly side of things, and some girls that are really good at the electrical side of things. You know, some girls that just are straight up programmers, and they are awesome. I got 2 girls on my team that they're better programmers than I am, and I've done some PLC stuff in the past, but they wipe the floor with me. The stuff they're doing is incredible. So the girls have kind of found their own pathway, and we're just kind of. It used to be that I was physically guiding them through how to use a tool and what we should be doing next and stuff like that. Now they're self-guiding themselves, and I basically make sure they go home with all of the same fingers that they came with. So, there's been a couple of times where we got real close, but just right now I just kind of look over their shoulder and go, do it that way. Yeah, that's good, but do it that way. Or a lot of don't hold it like that, you're going to lose your finger. Those kind of things are the kind of things I do. So they kind of guide themselves in what they want to learn. Okay.
We can't miss this plug-in right here. You guys are all women rookie team, but you actually won the rookie all-star at the FRC World Champions.
We did.
So like we gotta plug into that. How does that make you feel? Like
it was incredible. So we won Rookie All-Star at our first district competition as well, but we were like the top-ranked team that day. For whatever reason, the robot was just on fire. Not literally. It was kicking ass. It was amazing. And then we got to States, and my girls do a whole bunch of outreach. They do so much community outreach that we kind of thought we'd get Rookie All-Star at State, and then we got it, and it was an amazing feeling. We got to Worlds, and you're surrounded by there's 900-plus teams, like from all over the world, and you're like, wow, we ain't getting Rookie All-Star here. Some of these guys are incredible. And the judges, you know how the judges go around, they interview all of the teams, and they had a group of judges that were judging Rookie All-Star, and we were in a row of rookies. There were 6 rookies in our row, and the judges came to us once and went to the other guys like 2-3 times. So we thought we'd lost because they only came to us once. They only spoke to us once, and that was it. And we're all sat in the audience because we didn't get selected for Alliance. And so we sat there, we're enjoying it, and they go, Rookie All-Star Award, and they start talking about us. And it's like, wait, they're describing us. That's our team. And then they dropped G-Force Robotics, and I was like, oh my God. And I was like, I wasn't going to go up. I was crying. I was like, I was crying with joy, and they're walking off down the tunnel, and they're like, I'm getting dragged up by teenage girls. Like, come on, you're involved too. Yeah. I'm literally the only guy on the team. I've got 14 women in front of me. I'm like, I was the last one through because I was like, stop crying, stop crying. It's like, I'm the only one crying. I shouldn't be the only one crying. And I just walked through, and it's been sensational seeing the girls go from literally holding the wrong end of a screwdriver and destroying screws to building a robot with an arm that's got like 8 degrees of freedom and like 6 different autonomous codes. It was absolutely incredible. And the difference between them in just a year is night and day. Wow. And I just want them to go on now and win the whole thing. I want a world championship banner. That's what I want, eventually.
Okay, I see it. So yeah, I mean, people see the product of that you got that Rookie All-Star Award, right? But people don't see those long hours that y'all took of actually building that robot, right? It's a lot of work. What challenges did you kind of face of mentoring an all-girls robotic team? How did you really overcome those challenges?
The challenges are mostly time-related. Obviously, the girls are in school, and all of the mentors have jobs. There's nobody that does this full-time, as you're well aware. And so the time that you can spend on it is your own personal time. So that means you spend a lot of time away from family or away from other commitments. So you have to commit a bunch of time. And that was one thing I didn't really anticipate, as we were saying before. Like, I did not anticipate just how much time it was going to take up. And it was the biggest thing was they were originally only meeting twice a week, and that was not enough time. We were putting in maybe 6 hours a week, and it's like, yeah, we need to double this at least. And I think come build season next year, we're going to have to double that again. I think we're going to have to be meeting much more regularly for longer periods and stuff like that. So we're operating out of one of the girls' parents' garage, which is great. They're super nice to let us have this garage, but we have taken over, and we need to be in there almost 24/7. So biggest thing now, we've got to find a proper workshop, and I'm going to do my BattleBots out of there as well to kind of offset some of the cost. So that's the plan anyway.
Okay. You plugged into a perfect segment. Just about to plug into that, right?
Okay.
So how would you really say your experience as a mentor has influenced your own approach to like robot fighting? You know, we know that you're BattleBot Craig, right?
Yeah.
So how does your mentor experience, how does the two plug into each other?
So, I mean, I've been doing BattleBots and fighting robots since I was a kid. I was quite honestly, before I started mentoring, I was completely burnt out from it. BattleBots is a huge commitment in terms of time. It's like 2-3 weeks of filming, and you're usually in Vegas. Right now it's in Vegas, and Vegas gets old real quick. If you've been to Vegas, you know, like 2-3 days is about max. And if you're there for 2-3 weeks, it begins to feel like you live there, and it's not a place to. You're on the strip. Everything's so expensive. It's so hot. It's so tiring. I got snow blindness. That's what I call it, from walking around the tents that we were working in, because they're bright white and the sun was so bright that I had sunburn on my eyes because I couldn't see. So what happened with the girls was that they got me like re-inspired. So I having spent some time with them, at first I'm like, okay, let's go build another robot, and then it was like, let's go build another robot. Let's go work on another robot. And my first week filming for the season that finished last night was my first week there. The girls were at a local competition called Doyen, and I spent most of my time messaging the girls, going, "How's it going? And they're, oh, we broke something." It's like, oh God, how did you break that? That was welded on. How did you break that? And I spent most of my time worrying about them and not worrying about my own robot. And like at the 11th hour, I passed safety because I spent so much time messaging them and going, how's it going? I'm watching the streams and I'm like, God, you got this. You got to do this. You got to do this. And they made me love robots again. They made me love building robots. And so I threw together a new version of my robot Slammo, and I made it look like something. I made it a character because the girls said, oh, you should put eyes on it. You should do this. And they kind of like, oh, do this. And I was like, all right, I'll give it a mohawk. I'll paint it black and pink in their colors. And I'll give it a giant googly eye that lights up because it'd be funny for them. And they changed my entire approach from trying to be super competitive to just trying to be, just enjoy what I was doing.
That's an amazing feeling, right? Because sometimes we start to do stuff so long we don't have any enjoyment in it anymore. So for you to have that love of the game back is great. Yeah. So Slammo, right? I love the name. Where did this name Slammo come from? Just plug us in with that.
So originally it was I was sponsored by a company called Mobot, and they did the robot lawnmower service. Then I forget what it was originally called. Slammo had several names before it became Slammo. And it was Slam Mow, as in mow your grass, originally. And then COVID hit, and Mobot kind of took a really big hit, and they stopped sponsoring everything that they were sponsoring, including me. So because we weren't sponsored by them anymore, I just took the W off the end of it. And it's Slammo, because it says what it does. It slams things. So it was originally it was going to slam and mow. There was going to be a little blade on the front. There was going to be a whole video of it cutting the grass as well as picking things up. Okay. And that's kind of where it came from. And I just dropped the W when I dropped the mowing side of things, and that was it.
Okay. So what's plug us into how does Slammo kind of look, right? What's the design, and would you say the size and even the key features? What separates Slammo from any other robot?
We put Slammo next to the first robot, and Slammo is about a third of the size of the first robots, but is twice the weight of the first robot. So Slammo is, in reality, it's kind of like a rectangle. It's kind of short going forwards and backwards and fairly wide. The wideness gives it a really good turning. It makes it really agile. Then the front of the robot's got these curved super thick curved armor on the front, which is like half-inch thick. AR-500 steel, which is super robust. AR-500 steel is specifically treated steel, so it's hard on the outside, kind of soft in the middle. It can flex, and it can it's abrasion resistant, so it's fairly interesting material, but that's a whole other thing I could talk about. So the front of it's kind of curved and it's fairly thick, and then I've got these really thick, super thick, like 1.5 inch thick, kind of forks that go over the top and underneath, so they run down on the floor. They can scrape the paint off the arena floor, which they hate me for, because every time I drive forward, I'm taking the paint off the floor, the way they've just painted the floor, and I'll just peel it up, and there'll just be these train marks where I drive around. And then it's got 4 wheels on the outside, 2 on the left, 2 on the right, and yeah, it's silly fast for a robot. So we fight inside a 40 by 40 foot arena, and I can cross the arena in 0.6 seconds. So its top speed is around 25 miles an hour, which is reasonably high, but it's 0 to 25 miles an hour is astonishingly quick. And we don't use magnets yet, so some teams use magnets to give more downforce so they can accelerate faster. That's next. I'll try and figure that stuff out later. But it's got a big googly eye. It's got a bright pink mohawk like I used to. And it's kind of weird looking in reality. It's not really a character, but it's got character.
Okay. So you mentioned that you kind of redesigned Slammo, right? So what were the challenges that you faced when you were like building and refining Slammo? Were there any challenges?
There's plenty. I played rugby when I was a kid, and my coach would always tell me that there's no such thing as a loss. It's just a lesson, which is a really great way to look at things. There were definitely losses, though. We definitely got our ass kicked. And that happens in BattleBots as well. But every time you lose, there's something to learn from it. Why did you lose? How could you have done something differently? So the original idea of Slammo was it was this multi-weapon front end that we could adapt to whoever we were fighting. The problem with that is it's super expensive to do that. So you build one robot that is like $8,000 to build the frame of the robot, and then you spend another $12,000 doing all of the different front ends. So you have to kind of balance what you can afford. So without a big sponsor like we had when we first started, you have to kind of like start narrowing down what you need and adapting to what you think you need and how you think you can pay for it. Because that's another thing. So one of the big things, as it is for First as well, is the affordability. You can build a BattleBot for under $10,000, but if you want to be competitive, you're going to have to up that. You're going to have to at least triple that number and probably quintuple that number if you want to get up there with the guys that are winning it. I lost the workshop that I was in for a while, so that was a huge issue. And then we lost sponsors, so you start outsourcing things, and outsourcing costs money. And so when you can't afford it, you end up, it's like, what are the rules of production are what? It's cheap, fast, and good. Pick 2. If you want it to be good and cheap, it won't be fast. It's going to take a while to do. And if you need it quickly, it won't be cheap. So you kind of play this balancing act of what you can afford, what you actually need, and trying to get there. So some teams are really good at getting money together, just like in First, and some teams are not. I feel like design-wise, I do pretty well. But I don't think I execute it as well as I could do. So
BattleBots is competitive robot fighting, right? Are there any other robots out there that Slammo might be a little rival of? Do y'all have any opponents that you're like, oh, that robot right there, we're ready?
For the most part, like 99 times out of 100, everybody at BattleBots gets on super well. Like, we're all good friends. It used to be, it's a bit less so now, but it used to be that BattleBots was just 2 weeks drinking with your friends, and you could then go on TV and fight robots. It's a little bit more like serious now as the TV show is beginning to get a little better, but it's still just 2 weeks of hanging out with your friends. I don't have any real rivalries. I got people that I'd love to beat them, but they're like people I fought before.
Okay, plug them in. What robots are they?
I'd love another shot at Hypershock. They're one of the bigger guys. They helped me out a bunch. They've helped me kind of get my drive working, and I would love a shot at Hypershock again. I fought them in 2021, and they whooped my ass. I was like, okay, I want another shot. I've got a much better robot now. I reckon I can take you.
All right.
And then there's Witch Doctor, who, same thing, 2020, I fought them. I very nearly beat them, but they did beat me So I'd love another shot. Like it's like the way I see it is like you see where you've progressed from. So if you were fighting these people and you lost to them, if you fight them again and you're still losing to them, you're not getting any better. Or they've gotten so much better that you can't overcome them. But it shows your own progression. If you could take on somebody that kicked your ass and then kick their ass, it's like, yeah, I've improved. So it's not really a rivalry, but I'd love to fight those two.
Okay. You making me want to come to a BattleBot competition. I need to get out to Vegas to watch one. So are there any like notable victories that just kind of sticks in your head? Like, oh man, that was a good one that like Slammo really achieved in any competitions?
So on the show, I'm pretty famous for having what the BattleBots Facebook group calls the worst robot on TV. But outside of TV, there's a bunch of live events. There was one down in Orlando. There's one in Houston last year. And I usually do really well at those. I almost always place. And then when it gets to the TV show, something always seems to go wrong. But I have won fights on TV. So like the biggest TV fight that I won was against a guy called Evan, and he had a robot called Pain Train. And I grabbed him, and I suplexed him, and I shoved him around. And I ended the fight by, I've got these upper arms, and I shoved one of my upper arms into his weapon to break it. It's like it was directly in front of me, and I lined it up. I was like right there, and I rammed him into the wall. And my arm went in. I stopped his weapon. His weapon died. He was completely dead. And I backed away. I was like, "Yes, I've won! Amazing!" Wow. That's probably my favorite one. But I've had a bunch of fights on the live scene that were really great. And I wish they were televised because they make me look a lot better than the TV show makes me look.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was wondering. So have you gotten any feedback from like any fans or judges about like Slammo's design or performance?
So, I mean, in the last season, the one that just finished, we had electrical issues, which is where people like Hypershock have come in because they've solved those electrical issues we have basically the same setup. There was a lot of like, if you could just fix those electrical issues, you'd do a lot better. I'm like, I know. There's an arena marshal, and he's like, if you do this, then this will mean that you're more competitive, and you could probably do this. Like, there's another robot out there similar to us called Claw Viper. It's like, well, if you could do this, then you'd be as good as Claw Viper. And I'm like, I don't want to be as good. I want to be better than Claw Viper. So you get a lot of help from people. The judges, less so. They're trying to stay as neutral as possible. Trying to stay as neutral as possible. But I built my robot like one of the judges used to build his robots, and he's pretty biased towards me, which is always great when it comes to a judge's decision.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I'm interested in just like, you know, as being a First Robotics mentor to the Cyber Bears, and there's specific rules within First Robotics. I'm interested in how the rules kind of work within BattleBots, right? So do the rules kind of change? Does you have to like redesign Slammo like to cater to the rules of how BattleBots is supposed to be running?
Sort of. It's very different from how. So first, obviously, they have a new game every year, and they've got a new rule set every year. Our rule set is fairly stable. It's a 250-pound weight limit. We have to be smaller than 14 by 14 feet. Slammo is like 27 by like 24 inches, and it's like 9-10 inches tall. But there are robots that are 14 feet long by like 8 feet wide. And it's really funny to see this tiny little robot fight those. But in terms of like the rules are generally the same. So most of the rules that they change for us are safety related. We have to have a switch that activates our drive and weapon separately. That was an important change. And we also have to have an LED indicator that tells the team that goes into the arena after the fights are finished that our robot is still on and active. So those are the kind of rules. Almost all of our rules get changed for safety. I would love to see BattleBots really shake it up and do like a motorsport thing where they go, okay, in 2025, this is what the rule set is going to be, and then it changes everything, like lower the weight limit by 50 pounds, or things like that, lower the tip speed limit of the weapons down further, or things like that. And it would really shake up the field. Then something like that would happen. But they don't tend to do it. They tend to react to kind of safety things and add them in later. But because my robot is quote-unquote boring to some people, it doesn't really ever need to change. I put my safety covers on, I put my extra switch in, and that's it. I'm pretty set for probably the next 2 years.
Okay. So I guess the seating of BattleBots, right? You told me that Slammo made the round of 32 in 2020. That seems like a Out of how many robots is that that number?
So I think in 2020 it was like 60 robots.
Oh wow.
We were ranked 28th, which was really low. We were the lowest ranked positive. There were robots with worse records than us that were ranked above us, which really annoyed me. But that was the highest ranking that we achieved. So the following year we didn't have to qualify, but then every year after we have to qualify. So BattleBots takes the top 32 every single year. And they've made the field smaller. So in 2021 it was nearly 70 robots, and this last year in 2022 it was down to 50, and I think they're going to stick at 50 now. So we've got to be within the top 50 to qualify. Okay,
that's amazing. So it seems like you're very busy with mentoring a FIRST robotics team, your career job as well as BattleBots. So how do you really manage to have them travel to do all these different BattleBots events and mentoring? How do you manage all of this?
I've learned a technique called sleeping while you drive. Which is where you're physically driving down the road, but your eyes are open, but you're technically asleep. Your brain has shut down. I think that's the only way I can describe it. That's the only way that I can get it to work. I don't know how I managed to do it, with FIRST being the way it has been, and building Slammo for the qualifying season, which officially started about a month ago. I don't know how I do it. I've got a regular job that I'm doing. Probably 50-ish hours a week. I go home in the evenings and work on the robot for 2-3 hours, and then spend the rest of the day with my wife. And then some days I'm off with the girls doing robotic stuff. And then I lose some weekends to FIRST. I lose some weekends to BattleBots, and then I have 1 or 2 weekends a year spent with my wife, which it's getting tough to manage.
Yeah.
So I have no idea how I manage it. I don't know.
Well, you're doing it though, so that's amazing. I really appreciate you plugging in all of your stories throughout, FIRST Robotics as a mentor as well as BattleBots. You definitely taught me a lot. So, it really seems like, competitive robot fighting is becoming more and more popular. Where do you really see the future of it going? Where do you see it going next?
So there's a 3-pound competition. So BattleBots, like boxing, has different weight divisions, and there's a 3-pound robot class called the Beetleweights, and they have a huge event which happens. They do like a championship that is like you qualify for it. They do like once every 2 months. They have an event up in Norwalk in Connecticut in a facility that is purpose built for this. They're really lucky they found a billionaire who loves robots, and he's just kind of throwing money at it. It's terrific. God bless you, Austin. And so the real future is, so that event is live streamed. So they start at 10 o'clock in the morning. They run until 10 o'clock at night. It's a 12-hour show, and they run through like 200 robots a day. And it's like watching like a junior division of BattleBots. A lot of guys. Somebody like Huge, somebody like Sawblaze, guys that do really well at BattleBots, they really, really got their start at places like Norwalk and Norwalk Havoc. It's on YouTube. Thoroughly recommend watching it and catching up on it. You see me pop up every now and then. I've been there a few times. It's really good fun. But that's kind of where I see it kind of developing away from like the entertainment side of TV and moving really closer into like the sporting side of TV. You look at something like FIRST, for example. FIRST feels like a sport that has robots in it. BattleBots is a sport that is trying to be entertaining, and I think the future is that for BattleBots is to really push that sporting element, because what they really want to do is because it's in Vegas, they want to do betting on it, but you can't do that until you really legitimize yourself as a sport. And once they do that, they can put betting on it, and then they can start making a lot of money from it. So there's a lot that can come on with it, but I think the future is turning it from entertainment into a real sport.
Okay, the future is bright. Well, BattleBot Craig, we appreciate you plugging in. How can our listeners really check out your BattleBots, stay in touch with you, support your robotic team within FIRST as well? Plug in your information for us.
So I'm on all of the major social media sites as at Team Danby. TEAMDANBY, and I'm on Facebook and all of that. Through there, I'm tagged through by my girls everywhere. They tag me on absolutely everything. So GeForce Robotics, I think they're GeForce Robotics on most things, but they might be GeForce FRC Robotics on a couple of other things. But they're up there. If you can find me, you can find them. Please do support the girls. The girls are far more important than me playing with my toys. So if you want to help anybody out, if there's a sponsor out there who's like, hey, maybe I'll sponsor a BATTLEBot. Don't sponsor me. I'm fine. I got a good job. Sponsor the girls. Look after the girls. Look after the kids that are coming through STEM. If you're not going to sponsor me, sponsor the Cyber Bears so they can get some. They get somewhere as well. So yeah, I'm all on there.
Well, we appreciate you again plugging in BattleBot Craig. Thanks for tuning in.